Hey everyone, I made a video like this a while back, but I think I can make a better one today. So, over the years, I have opened all kinds of old food, some of it being over 100 years old. The majority of this food is over 50 years old, and throughout the years, I have learned what holds up, what still tastes good decades later, what still tastes good a century later. Well, I'm going to give you advice on what's the best foods to be prepping. So first, I'm going to give everyone a scan of my shelves and talk about some items. And then we're going to go into my personal pantries and we're going to see what I'm keeping. So, first off, stuff like this will last you decades. Anything that's in Mylar bags, anything that's freeze-dried will last a super long time. Same thing with stuff that's dehydrated. So right here, I got some old minced meat. That's disgusting. That's definitely bad. And this right here is going to show you, look at this, other countries, this is what Fanta looks like. Here in North America, we add cancer-causing dyes, unnecessary food colorings to make it look pretty for people. When this is actually better and it has real juice, while that one doesn't. Things like this last forever. These older things still have pressure and they're from the 50s. They're 70-something years old. That's amazing. So right here, this was a gigantic container of candy. A lot of things with a lot of sugar last forever. These right here are from the 1960s, and they still taste amazing. Right here is popcorn. This one I haven't opened yet, but we've opened popcorn that was from the 50s, 60s, and even 1930s, and it's sealed really well, and it even pops. These are in cans. The amazing thing is, no, it wasn't from the 30s. I believe it was from 1913. We had a container of this that was a paper can. I thought for sure it was bad. It still popped. Still tasted good. Over 100-year popcorn. So popcorn is a prepping food. Doesn't even have to be in a metal can because we opened one in a paper can and it held up awesome. Most things in glass jars will hold up. So this right here are some things. At first I bought it just because it looked cool on my shelf, but this is something that will actually keep you alive for a while if you have radiation in the air. So with all this talk of possible nuclear wars and stuff that have been going on, it's good to have some of this in your house. And you don't need too much of it because the chances are if you get hit by a nuke and it's a direct hit, you're not going to make it. But the majority of the population would have radioactive air, radioactive smog for a few days or a few weeks. It'll eventually pass. This stops your body from absorbing it. So I got these containers. I got this teeny little container, and I have some up in my medicine cabinet in my bathroom. So that's exactly what that is right there. Something you might want to prep. It doesn't cost too much. I remember when we were really freaking out about nuclear wars. Well, some people were a few years ago. Amazon, all those places just sold out of it. I think that's when the Russia war started. Everyone just went out of stock. But that's been a couple years, and it's all back in stock. So obviously things like wines will last a long time. And right here, this is Tang. Tang lasts a very long time. Unfortunately, they don't sell it in a container that's metal anymore. Now it's plastic. And when I did my comparison video, the new one doesn't taste as good as the old one, despite being brand new. In fact, the new one was clumping, while this one was perfect powder. That's why I saved it, because it tastes so good. Coffee is another thing that lasts absolutely forever. This one right here, I believe, was from the 40s. This one was from the 30s, 80s. We kept it all because it tastes good. And matter of fact, I think it tastes better than the new stuff. But don't be disappointed if you can't find it in a metal can or a jar. Even this right here from the 1980s in a Mylar bag tasted fine, in my opinion. Here's a whole bunch of beers from the 80s and 70s. It had a little bit of grit at the bottom of it, which is basically the barley and other stuff in there going bad, but it still tasted good, the majority of them. Now, these are aluminum cans. We did test them, and there was aluminum contamination in the beer, but if it's in a glass bottle, chances are it will hold up. Up here, a lot of these things held up. Soda oftentimes will taste sweet. They all have like a generic sugar water taste once they get to a certain age, and yeah, you can't really taste most sodas. Dark sodas, on the other hand, like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, sometimes hold up, sometimes they don't. It's actually completely random, and we've opened many, many of them over the years. Fruit, if it's dehydrated or freeze-dried, will last forever. On the other hand, regular canned fruit will look like motor oil in as little as 10 years. 5 years, you can taste it starting to ferment, in my experience. Here's a whole bunch of instant teas. They held up. These are from the 70s and 80s. Perfect. Sardines are another product that really holds up. Eventually, in these older ones, new containers don't use lead anymore, but lead usually leaches into it because it was used to seal a lot of the stuff back in the day. Cereal, no. Unless you can somehow find it airtight, that's not a prepping food, because even in a bag, it's going to eventually go stale. This Nesquik right here from the 90s still tasted good. You could tell it was starting to go bad, but it was okay. That's okay to keep. It'll last a few decades. Kool-Aid, on the other hand, things like this, it's just pure sugar. Keep it dry, keep it in a nice cool spot, no humidity. Another thing, it'll last forever. That chili mix also lasts forever. Taco mix. Seasonings usually last a very long time. In fact, they usually start to get bland. They don't really taste bad, in my experience. Like, we have spices right here that are well over 100 years old, and they're very bland, but don't necessarily taste bad. So, what else? This right here, I believe was from the 90s. Tasted perfectly. It came with a spice packet, still as strong as the day it was made. None of the beans went rancid. That was awesome. That was absolutely awesome. 16 bean soup. I can't even find that anymore. It was great. Microwave popcorn from the 80s. It popped, but the butter actually went bad and made it taste absolutely disgusting. Baking soda is another thing that will last absolutely forever. And these products right here, unfortunately, we didn't get to open them. That's just a display, but I've opened many crackers inside of cans that are sealed, like MRE, C rations over the years. That kind of stuff holds up if it's airtight. Laundry detergent, soaps, they hold up a long time. Bars of soap. In fact, it's the body wash that is in a gel form. Eventually will start separating, but it doesn't necessarily go bad, I would say. Another thing that is an exception to what I just said, fruit goes nasty. But if it's mixed with tons of sugar and stuff, jams actually seem to hold up quite a few decades. That is one of the few exceptions. And compared to that Nesquik right there, here's one that's really older, made by Hershey's. This is for baking, but I know what it's supposed to taste like, and that tasted like soil. Yeah, not good. Another product, lasted for a while, that free sample. Potted meat, that'll last still a few decades apiece. This will last a pretty long time. And this was bland, and I couldn't believe it. I cooked it up, put some seasoning. It tasted pretty good, although it did absorb the smell and kind of taste of somebody's house. Spam, that'll probably last you a couple decades, but don't push your luck with it. We opened Spam from the 1980s, and it made the entire house smell like fried roadkill for a few days. Also, this bread right here from the 1960s, they still sell canned bread. It'll last you a while, but this, I would say, is a product that did not hold up. It smelled bad. It was kind of rancidy tasting. I wouldn't buy that. I wouldn't get that kind of food. Now, Spam, you wouldn't believe all the flavors that they actually make. And this is not even half of them. This is just what I was able to get here in America. In fact, the cheese one up there, I had to get from Korea. So, what else can I show you in here? Mashed potatoes. It's just like that. Another potato product right there. It absorbs the smell of somebody's musty house. Mac and cheese, that's hit or miss. We've opened quite a few of these. We got this one right here. We have Blue's Clues. We have Santa right there. I believe that the noodles all held up in a box, unprotected, no bag. It's all about how it's stored. Keep it dry. It seems to last a pretty long time without going rancid. The cheese in one of them went horribly wrong, but the other two, I believe, it went pretty good. This right here is noodles from the 50s, went rancid, did not hold up. I personally love this. You fry it up, crisp it up, it tastes exactly like bacon despite how bad of a rap Spam has. And right here was alphabet soup. That also went rancid, I believe. So, what else do we got in here? And I'm always buying discount items. I love stocking up. Right there, a penny drink from the 1930s. Tasted fine. That's another thing, kind of like the Kool-Aid. This did not hold up. It is a paper can. It does have an aluminum film on the inside, but it did not hold up. It allowed moisture in. That's another thing. It may have held up if it wasn't for humidity. Dry, freeze-dried products last forever. Powdered eggs. If you can get it in a can or a jar, awesome. If you can get it in plastic, It'll hold up a few decades. Evaporated milk is a product. No. Oh, I knocked down Santa. This is a product right here. Does not hold up. I have stockpiled evaporated milk when it's going on sale. A year or two past the date, it's starting to get chunky. Don't buy that. Get powdered milk if you want to keep it for a long time. And I do believe I have powdered milk in my pantry. Old grated cheese, nasty. This corn from the 1930s actually looked pretty good, but we did not eat it because, once again, old cans are sealed with lead. If it's a dry product, powdered, dehydrated, lead probably is not an issue if it's old because it can't really leach into something that's dry. But if it's wet on the inside, yes, it absolutely will. Things like this, high sugar content, held up. Powdered baby foods from the 80s, held up. 90s in a little jar, held up. This banana stuff, nope, that one bad. This right here is one of our amazing products from the 1930s. It doesn't say it on there, just says vegetable mix, but it also had noodles in there. And yep, that made it perfect. There's the popcorn from 1913. There we have one from the 50s, and we have one from 1962 over on the right. Down here from the 1960s also, we have this, tasted fine, another Kool-Aid product. We had this from the 1960s. Apple nuggets. We also had prunes. They were all dehydrated products and they held up absolutely fine. This was Skippy that we tried down here from the 1980s. The peanut butter held up. The syrup here held up. Yeah, maple syrup. I know that's not maple syrup, but maple syrup and honey are basically forever products if they're in glass. And what else do I have to show you? We already went over coffee. Nuts almost never hold up. There are a few exceptions that I've tried over the years. There always are. I opened peanut M&Ms from the 90s. The majority of them, the hard shell cracked off, but the ones that didn't crack off tasted fine. Chocolate doesn't really go bad. It will crystallize. It'll turn white. Most people think it's going bad. It's just like basically rebar rusting inside concrete. It makes cracks on the chocolate as it crystallizes and it will open it up, but nothing's wrong with it. More hard candies always hold up. Right here, more soup. It used to come in little cans instead of packets. Soup comes in little envelopes these days, but this is the equivalent of back in the day. Peanut butter and MREs always holds up, lasts good. Vinegar is something that usually holds up. Some things that are acidic will eat right through the can. That's why I don't recommend stockpiling things in cans that are like tomato sauce. Get it in glass jars if you can. Only thing is that's unfortunate is if you ever have a power outage, especially where I live, where it can get to negative 40 sometimes, that's the same in Fahrenheit and Celsius. Yeah, they can break and you're going to have a disaster. Like my house, I'm going to have quite a mess to clean up if I ever have a power outage for an extended amount of time. Jello, pudding, holds up forever. This is from the 60s. Flavors they don't even make anymore. We got to try them and they were perfect. But one of them, when we made it, was not perfect. It turned out black, tasted disgusting. This one actually made up pretty good. Even Royal products from the 1950s hold up. We've tried pudding from the 80s. We've tried a whole bunch of products, and they always seem to hold up. Gelatin is a hard product for it to really go bad. Yeah. So, most vegetables will hold up for a while. Things like tomato sauce, anything acidic like that in a can, I wouldn't keep it for more than 5 years. It's going to start eating it. Same with fruit. Don't keep it for more than 5 years past the best by date. Cans have best by dates, not an expiration date. Expiration means it can become dangerous. Like milk will have that, cheese will have that, things that can grow bacteria. Best by means it might not taste as good after the fact, but it won't hurt you. Expiration, you should not be eating past the date because it could possibly hurt you, and that's what the difference is. Most people don't, they'll see a best by date and they'll say, oh, it's expired, but it's actually not. And I got a wood stove here, so if I'm ever home during a power outage, we'll do this. That's what I bought that for, as a prepper. You can heat the house even during extended power outages. This thing's powerful enough, it'll bake the entire house no matter how cold it is outside if I run it hot enough. People complain about my water bottles back there. Microplastic being next to the heat. This thing projects forward. It makes items over here hot. Sides of it, wall, doesn't get hot. It has heat shields. Most modern stoves do. This is a catalytic stove. It burns it really slow through a catalyst, kind of like the catalytic converter in your car. So I load it up properly with high quality firewood. It'll go over 24 hours without loading it. Most wood stoves that don't have a catalyst cannot do that. I can go to work for a day. I can leave for a day. I can go to sleep and sleep all day long, and I can come back and throw wood and it'll start right back up. That's the one benefit to this. Catalyst, I've been running this thing now 3 years, does not clog up. Every now and then there's a screen on the in front of it. When this thing's cold and you're cleaning it out, just brush off the screen with a paintbrush. I've even done it while it's hot. Yes, it will clog up the end of it, but not internally. The catalytic converter in this thing actually has a 10-year warranty, and I believe it will last that time. When I'm home in the winter, I run this thing nonstop, and it saves money on diesel, which my furnace uses. I buy everything on discount, as you can see. This thing's full of discount meats. Also in a freezer here, I have an ammo can full of almost every kind of seed you can imagine, even sprouting seeds that you can grow in sugar water during the winter. Yep. Put them in there, they'll last indefinitely. Seeds. Speaking of seeds, I have tons of corn right here. I don't hunt animals. I don't shoot animals. I don't have anything against people that do. I just don't like when people shoot rare animals. Deer, I don't have a problem with that. They're everywhere here. I almost crash into one nearly every week. They're everywhere. But this, I attract deer to my property. I attract turkeys. They're my friends. But if a day ever came, they're there to eat them. But that's only if something severely happened. So that's part of being a prepper. All the canned food down here is about 3 years old. And guess what? Most of it hasn't even hit its dates. Most of this stuff has a pretty good shelf life. But it will last 5-10 years, depending what it is, past those dates. I'm rapidly eating this. This was stocked to the top, all these shelves. I'm slowly eating this stuff down here. The majority of it hasn't even hit the dates. Like these are all, they expire this month actually, December 24. Some of them actually go into 25 or even 26. And I bought these a couple years ago. Last a long time. But you're going to see a change in what I'm actually doing. So I realize things like soup, noodles, it'll sit on the shelf forever. It'll sit there for 5 years and it'll still taste good. 10 years, it starts to dissolve. It turns into like a mush. The noodles kind of fall apart. In an emergency, it's probably still safe since it's packed in so much salt, which is a really good preservative. But I wouldn't eat stuff that's 10 years old unless I'm just taste testing it for a video. I don't recommend that unless it's an absolute emergency. But up top, things like carrots, peas seem to have a much longer shelf life. And one time I did an experiment with a can of peas. I put it in my freezer every night. Every morning I took it out for months. Freeze thaw, freeze thaw, freeze thaw. Cans typically do not break. I've put all kinds of cans in my freezer just as an experiment. Will they expand and all deform? Actually, no. They'll lightly bulge the ends usually, but I've never had one burst. Glass jars will certainly burst if they don't have expansion room, or if the top of it freezes and the glass holding it in is weaker than the surface of the ice, it can't expand. So, yeah, I ate those peas after freezing thawing them probably 100 times. They were fine. Nothing wrong. On the other hand, I've put soup in my camp truck. I'm sure people have seen that. And it's freeze and thawed cycles maybe a dozen times. It's falling apart. When it freezes the noodles, it kind of rips them apart from the inside out. Just like when bricks freeze when they're wet. So up top here, it's always good to have some oils to cook food in. Nesquik, we've proven, lasts a very long time. So I keep a giant can of that. That tastes good. Could even mix it with water. It might switch things up. This stuff will last a long time because it's in glass compared to if it was in a can. These giant cafeteria-sized cans of things like, I got corn here and I have green beans. They have a good shelf life of 4 years and they're pretty cheap, these kind of things from Walmart. Again, it's better if it's in glass, but these will still last a good 5 years. I'm not trying to buy stuff like this in glass typically because it is a fruit and it will go bad. It ferments after like 5 years, so despite it being in plastic, it doesn't matter. Bought this because it looks good. Again, fruits right here. These right here are all a couple months past their date, but they'll be good for quite a while. I don't have much fruit in there. I'll go through that pretty quick. Got a few family-sized cans back there I need to eat. This right here can be used for cooking. It can also be used as lotion in an emergency. Up here, I started stockpiling more of these preserved things because I have proven they last a long time despite being fruits. This is almost an indefinite product, especially if you can get it in glass. Plastic will still last a long time. Got garlic there. I have lots of fish. I love olives. And this peanut butter is actually good for you. Look at the ingredients list. Where is it? I read it in the store. It is literally just peanuts. Yeah, ingredients, peanuts, that's all. It may include these items because the factory processes them, but yeah, one ingredient. The only thing is it's very hard to stir it when it's been sitting a long time because the oil separates. It's good for you. None of the bad preservatives that help it not separate. Right here, these things will last quite a few years. Fish will probably last a good decade or so. Back there I have Chef Boyardee, which is tomato sauce in a can. I wouldn't keep that for more than 5 years. That's getting close to the date too. I gotta start eating that. I have a whole bunch of fish. That's what that is right there. I have bird suet. In an emergency, you could eat that. But that's not what it's for. It's for feeding the wild birds, which I enjoy watching. Here's more of these preservatives and things. Tons of beans. I have lots of beans up in my kitchen pantry too. More fish. This will last quite a while in even plastic containers like that. Massive containers, sea salt. You cannot live without sea salt. You got to have some of that in your diet despite what you're eating. Crisco. I love Japanese sauce. Oh, this one here. How old is this? This has been sitting down here for a while. It's got a thick layer of dust on it from the wood stove. Okay, Best Buy 2023. That right there is exactly a year and maybe 10 days old. That's fine. We better eat that one first. Remember, this right here is very sugary. It should last a long time. This right here will last decades past the date right here. This kind of thing, especially. That's a glass jar. Actually found those dumpster diving years ago for free. Got some vinegar in here. Honey, again, is a product that lasts forever. And these are things that will probably outlast me. They have 30-year shelf lives, but in reality, I've opened things like this. It'll last probably 100 years. MREs, tea goes bland over time, but it lasts, again, basically forever. So we got all kinds of things. This is not one of the prepping foods, but we got milk powder, coffee powder, sugar. Can't live without vitamin C. We have a couple containers of that. We have cheese, butter, honey. We have all kinds of things. We even have bread. That's basically flour right there. It's gluten. All kinds of things we could mix up here potentially. So I slowly go through this stuff. Nothing is exactly getting wasted. But every now and then when I have people over, I'll ask, do you want any of this stuff? I have a whole bunch of this stuff that's going to be hitting its date in a good month or so. Yeah, and just give it away or donate it within a few months if I know 100% I won't be using it. But yeah, got a whole bunch of products like this that I do use them. I circulate them. But in an emergency, this stuff will be here for quite a while. And over here, I just got a bunch of batteries and stuff that can run things for quite a while. Have books about how to make jerky if we ever had to hunt animals in a situation like that. Power banks, solar panels, tons of boxes of MREs, a lot more canned food stockpiled. Lots of water filtration. All discount shelved. Good amount of this stuff. Medications. First aid kits. Candles. Got a whole ton of fruit up in here. All right, let's talk about different drinks. Things like this will last quite a long time. Give it 5 or 10 years, it'll actually give you a buzz. It will slowly ferment. Cans are probably your best option. Most containers these days. Gatorade actually has a good gasket, but it's not carbonated. That'll last quite a while. Things like this don't have gaskets anymore. It relies on plastic pressure. They're designed to fail. They're designed to go flat after just a couple months. So yeah, everything I have here, I haven't drank soda in a while since I've been on a diet. Almost all that's garbage. Probably just gonna have fun and throw it down onto the pavement from a porch at some point. Cans last forever. This will last a couple years before getting chunky. Energy drinks will last a while. Once again, these are all flat. Those are all bad. Things in bottles like that will hold up though over time. Here's my kitchen pantry. Not necessarily a lot of stuff. We also have a diesel generator, a big one and a small one. Diesel is my choice because gasoline maximum 2 years if you put a whole bunch of additives in it. Typically 6 months to 12 months until gasoline starts to lose its flammability. It'll still start an engine, but it'll cause buildup that damages it. Diesel, on the other hand, will burn decades later And I learned it doesn't even have to be stored that well. It can go through freeze thaw, it turns to jelly. But put anti-gelling in there to last forever. That's why I invested in diesel generators rather than gasoline, because you can stockpile diesel and you don't necessarily have to use it. But always on the other hand, remember, if you are a prepper and there is an emergency, most people don't prep. They're gonna rob you. So just keep that in mind. Don't over prep because it's probably gonna be taken from you. Got more oil, rice, beans. I love these. I love olives. You'll find lots of those in my house. Shelf-stable milks along with the powdered milk. This is awesome. Shelf-stable yogurt. That comes from the Mexican aisle at Walmart. I bought that in Florida. We don't have a Mexican aisle up here. But see, I'm always buying the discount shelf stuff. And this too, even this fake syrup here. Not real maple syrup. It will last forever. But not too much interesting in here. This is my kitchen pantry. Vinegar, more oil, hummingbird food. This right here is another product that'll last forever. This is real ground beef, and I love it. This right here, that's a fake plant-based one back there. I made a video of those. This actually tastes just like the real thing once you hydrate it. Yeah, I'm not a prepper at all as far as frozen food because power goes out. Eat as much as you can in a couple of days. I'm not gonna waste generators on that kind of stuff. Probably not. Maybe. And my other pantry here is just full of junk food. But the majority of this stuff will last quite a while, in my opinion. A lot of this stuff. Yeah, popcorn kernels, that'll last. That'll be there in a century. That'll still be good. Ramen noodles, I don't know. I've never got the chance to try one of those decades old. The microwave popcorn, not too long. Peanuts, again, not too long. The candy will be there forever. Up top here, the Nutella will be there for a while. That peanut butter goobers will be there for a while. The breakfast essentials, those are actually 5 years past their date. But we'll leave them there for a while. I love stovetop stuffing. I have never had an old one, but I had one from 2012 that was over 12, I think it was 14 years old now. Well, from the manufacturer date, it was at least 15 years. Still tasted great, so we have a little stockpiled stuffing. I love that. Love minute rice too. Well, everyone, I hope this little video was interesting, and feel free to ask questions in the comments. I try to read all my comments. Sometimes that's difficult to do, but I always stick with the comments for quite a while on my latest videos. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day. I would love more advice on what I'm doing from anyone else's experience. I would love for conversations to spark in the comments. It's always interesting to see what people have to say about these subjects. And then there'll always be people who say that I'm a crazy person for being prepared. I'm not a crazy person. I'm just prepared for things that could happen. And if nothing happens, it's always good to have a wood stove. It's good to have extra food. It's good to have a reliable power source. Yeah, I've added a couple large tanks to the property just for diesel fuel to run those things. But diesel generators, even if you have a 1,000-gallon tank, running nonstop, that's probably, in realistic terms, only a month of power.